Welcome to MILF,
I'm Courtney,
and I'm Jennifer.
and we are two moms into literary freedom. Jennifer, guess who I have with us today on today's episode?
I'm gonna take a wild guess and say Jack.
It's Jack. Jack is somewhat of a local celebrity here in Flagler, at least among like all the old Democrats. Jack, did you know that?
Um, I did not know that, but that is very exciting. I have been to the local Democratic club meetings, and they are all very kind, so I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, they love you. And I think it is because, you are like the face of young activism. And we get super excited, when we see all the new things that you're doing and hear about all the stuff that you're doing. So we're very excited to have Jack Petocz here today to talk about Genz4Change, right?
Yeah, yeah. Super excited to be here today. Hi guys, my name is Jack, and I lead partnerships at the national youth-led nonprofit Genz4Change, and super excited to talk about the work I do on a day-to-day basis and one of our newest campaigns.
Awesome. And I know a little bit about this campaign, and I'm super excited to hear about it in greater detail and to share it with all of our uh, 10 or 11 listeners that we have and growing. Okay. But
And I don't know much because you mentioned it's on Instagram, and I am kind of boycotting Instagram right now. So I
Real,
haven't
real.
been able to, get on and follow. So if you're on TikTok, let me know and I'll follow you there.
yeah, are you
For
guys,
sure. Yeah, TikTok's our biggest platform. It's where we got started, so
they're
definitely
Gen
follow us
Z.
over there. Yeah.
Yeah. Gen
We'll
Z
be
is TikTok. Millennial is Instagram. We've been over it.
Yes.
and I'm Gen X and I'm trying to fit in with with the
Yeah,
young.
you don't fit anywhere. Are you
You're the Tumblr.
MySpace? But no, before we get into it, we should talk about your first ever like what would you say is your first moment of activism? Did it like was it with Janet McDonald?
It was with Jana McDonald, yes. So I grew up in Flagler County, alongside Courtney and Jennifer. And it's a really interesting place. It's a beautiful place. There's a lot of great people here, as we just alluded to. But there's also not so great people at certain times. There's been this pervasive spread of anti-LGBTQ sentiment, just overall pretty bigoted sentiment that's been rising within the South, although it's been here for a long time. But
Mhm.
recently, with the rise of the DeSantis administration and this new 21st century culture war, it's definitely been a bit more complicated as of late. And as a young gay teenager living in a place like this, coming from a conservative family, it wasn't always the most welcoming environment. And I experienced a lot of um, internalized abuse, but also outward abuse throughout my childhood because of this identity.
Mhm.
So as I became a teenager, I decided to kind of channel those really those really challenging times of my childhood into action
Mhm.
and decide to fight back against this really horrific situation that has developed all across Florida and again the South to make sure that like children who come after me don't have to go through what I went through and what people have gone through for centuries in this country and all across the world. So one of my first bouts of activism was during COVID. It was 2020.
Mhm.
Um, and one of our local school board members, it was the school board chair, Janet McDonald, had been making some really colorful tweets on her personal social media account.
Mhm.
I believe one of my favorites was, "It's easier to come out as gay than come out as a Trump supporter," which is really
Oh.
uh, wild to say. There were also, the typical vaccine denialism,
Mhm.
COVID denialism, racist rhetoric.
Mhm.
And so I, was 15 at the time, and I decided I was gonna go and tell her what I thought about her activity.
Mhm.
And I wrote this like essay, and went up to the school board meeting. And within, I think, about 30 seconds of reading my statement, I was interrupted by her and told that I was not allowed to continue speaking.
Mhm.
And I was one of the only people in recent memory to be censored by the Flagler County School Board. I was not allowed to continue my public comment until I self-censored it later in the meeting. But I think that was really a turning point for me in realizing that like these electeds do not care what their constituents have to say, especially young people.
Mhm.
I would put myself in her shoes and like see this young man coming to me in distress and trying to like reason with me. And instead of shutting him down, I would have tried to have like an actual conversation with him, even though we might not see eye to eye on everything.
Right.
There was no attempt there.
Yep.
And that inadvertently, I don't think she realized it at the time, but it really lit a fire underneath me, and that kind of has uh, changed the trajectory of my life in more ways than one.
Wow. And if it wasn't her, it would have been someone else, honestly, because that
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that's who, unfortunately, that's the place that we're at in this in society. But also like that's like, who you are as such a passionate individual. But as like a teacher and a mom, we just Jennifer, I'm sure agrees with me on this. Like we want the teenagers and the kids to just live their lives and like enjoy their lives, but instead they're having to like fight these fights. And on the one hand, I'm just so proud of people, Gen Zers like you, but on the other hand, I just my mama heart just wishes that you guys could just like go to college and have that normal life. But to hear you say like I'm just doing this for the people behind or the kids behind me is just like, oh, I just have the goosebumps. So thank you.
You. And
Yeah.
I totally get that. But like what I look at it from is like there are people before me that had climb even higher battles and fight even bigger fights. I mean, I think about AIDS activists. That's really where I draw a lot of my inspiration from. They were dying of a incredibly, debilitating illness, and they still found, whatever fight they had left in them to fight for the people, that were coming after them, and to ensure that there was some sort of government intervention in
Right.
regard to that epidemic. So, yeah.
That's a good
I
pair.
see young guys or young kids um, doing what you're doing. And to me, it gives me a lot of hope and inspiration because I'm like, okay, all is not lost. The youth still has this, they're still in it, they're still fighting, there's still hope.
Mhm.
So you guys inspire us all the time.
And
Thank
it inspires us to stop like being apathetic too.
Right.
It's like we can't just let our, and I know you're not a kid, but like when I met you, you were 16 and I was running for Janet McDonald's school board seat. So so
Circle.
like I know you're a grown man, but
Sorry,
but
I meant you at 16.
I know, but it's weird how adults like we just like freeze in time and it's like, no,
Mhm.
that's just what us parents.
Maybe yes.
I know, but yeah, like I think it inspires us to. That's why part of the reason why we're so excited to have you on the show is because like we want our listeners to follow Gen Z4Change. Because Gen Z4Change has like so many creative ideas to resist the authoritarian America that we've become. And so I guess this is as good as a point as any for you to jump into talking about that, project if you want.
Yeah, for sure. So Gen Z for Change is a collective of young organizers and activists that first came together in 2020 to be part of the media empire that removed Donald Trump from office. After being successful in that endeavor, we officially incorporated in a nonprofit, and today we are one of the nation's leading youth-led organizations that engages in disruptive action to rally for progressive change across this country. Some of our previous projects include taking down anti-abortion snitch lines in Texas, sending hundreds of millions of emails to members of Congress demanding a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip.
Mhm.
Uh, Targeting anti-CRT tip lines in Virginia, a project of Glenn Youngkin. So I think what is really pivotal to combating that apathy and what makes Gen Z for Change so unique is that we're pioneering a new form of activism in the digital
Yeah.
sphere, and kind of giving people new ways to take action that are exciting and that are accessible. You can
Yeah.
do any one of our actions with a phone. You can do it remotely with the click of a button. And I
Yeah.
think that is really powerful, and it's having a real world impact.
Yes.
We've always had digital, campaigns, whether it be like sending an email to your representative or signing a petition. But I think like this is something that hasn't been done before, and I'm just so privileged to be able to be a part of it.
Because
Um,
like you see these like sign this petition. People don't sign. They're like, no, like it doesn't. In the past, it used to be like, oh, I signed the petition. I did something. But now it's like, did you really do something though? Like, is a petition going to result in any sort of meaningful change? And I think the answer most of the time is no, unfortunately. So,
Yeah, for I've had a lot of conversations with my peers about this, like kind of like reframing what organizing looks like, because I think a lot of people are kind of stuck in like these old tactics that might have been effective back in the day, but unfortunately not like they're not anymore. So like you know, n not framing a petition or liking a video or sharing a video as like your civic duty for the year. You know what I mean? Making sure that they
right,
take the extra step and actually tap into a movement and make a material difference on the
right,
ground.
right.
Yeah,
And that's what
yeah,
you're doing.
yeah, yeah. I'm so proud of all the work that we do over at Gen4Change. So recently, in the aftermath of the crazy presidential election, we've been doing a lot of soul searching as an organization, as I think a lot of different nonprofits in the progressive space have been, and trying to really figure out how to respond to all of the horrific developments coming out of the White House. And something that is really near and dear to our heart and definitely is of top interest is fighting the recent anti-immigrant sentiment and attacks on immigrants all across this country. You're seeing a rapid acceleration of detention and deportation campaigns. I mean, it's disgusting. Every time I turn on social
It's
media, I see
and it's illegal because
it is
there's
illegal.
no due process, and federal judges have said that, and they're being ignored. So this is illegal kidnapping and wrongful deportation.
Yes, yes, and I think that's what really differentiates the moment we're in currently, because of course, detention and deportation campaigns exist even under democratic administrations, but we're
Yes.
in uncharted territory here.
Yeah. And that's what
Um,
people don't understand. So that's part of what Jennifer and I do is like we really break it down, for maybe those people that don't understand it aren't listening to us, but maybe their sister is or something. And they're like, hey, just so you know, like this is not the same as when Biden deported people,
yeah.
because there weren't federal judges telling him that he was being unconstitutional. So,
hmm Yeah, and you didn't see the invocation of a centuries old
oh,
uh,
yeah.
bill
It's
used under
the
the Adams
Alien Enemies
Administration.
Act. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, it's wild. So we saw this insanely uh, you know, horrific development occurring across the country. Like I said, I was opening social media and I was just seeing
Mhm.
videos of mothers being ripped away from their children. I mean, student activists like myself being disappeared. It's unconscionable.
Mhm.
And we were trying to figure out how we can materially, as Gen Z for Change, fit into this fight for immigrant justice that, of course, has been ongoing since the foundation of this country.
Right.
Um, and what we decided in our response was a campaign that we just launched named Fight, which is an acronym, which I can get into. But it essentially is kind of like a digital toolkit to give people across the country material ways to take action to resist this horrific campaign we're seeing unfold from the White House. And I think a lot of people are looking for direction right now. They're consuming this constant loop of horrific news in regard to immigrants and immigration policy. They don't know how to fight back, and this is kind of giving people back their agency and
Yeah.
telling them, here are the steps you take.
That's
That's all.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can you tell us what FIGHT stands for?
Yeah, so we've done a few campaigns before that are acronyms, and I'm just going to go letter by letter. So each letter represents one of the prongs of the campaign and one of the actions that people can take. F stands for funding rapid response groups all across the country. So rapid response groups are oftentimes kind of like these community autonomous organizations that band together in order to support undocumented people that are facing violence by ICE and the state. And they provide emergency alerts in the event of ICE activity in their local area. They will actually come and rally outside someone's home if they're facing an attack by ICE.
Huh.
And they provide emergency legal intervention.
So funding them would be very important.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. And like I said, because they're oftentimes community groups, they go without access to like institutional funding and resources.
right.
So we have a split fundraiser there to 22 of these organizations all across the country. Your one donation will be split evenly between all of them.
That's
And that,
awesome.
yeah, it's one of the foremost ways you can really make an impact with your wallet, as we always
Yeah.
say. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I is invoking your rights. So if you are an immigrant, knowing your rights can be the difference between safety and vulnerability. So with the Immigrant Legal Resource Center, we created really digestible, easy to read and easy to understand graphics in order for people across this country to know their rights when interacting with ICE, and for allies like myself to know the rights of immigrants so that we can intervene if we see anything nefarious going on. So,
Like
the
we're seeing those videos, right? Where
yeah,
it's where's your warrant? Let me see your warrant. They never have a warrant, but
And
yeah,
that it has to be signed by a judge.
right, where's your signed warrant? Yeah.
Yeah.
And they can't once you're in your house, they can't get into your house for now, but I heard somewhere that was going to change, and that's so scary.
yeah. I believe they're exploring a policy there. But at the moment, if they have an administrative warrant, which most of the time that's all that ICE has, they cannot legally enter your home
Okay.
unless you consent to them doing so. They need a judicial warrant in order to do so.
Don't
Um,
consent to them entering
don't
your
consent. No. Um, and I think that that's really powerful because we're entering this new era of like education that definitely is being spurred by social media.
Yeah.
Even so much as you see like what is the guy's name? Tom Hoffman, Trump's deportation czar.
Oh,
Yeah, he was complaining on national television about how immigrants are so educated nowadays on
oh
their
my.
rights, making
How
detention
dare
and deportation
they?
things so
The
difficult.
nerve.
So we got to keep it up.
Yeah. So it's
So
working.
yes, yes. And these resources aren't meant to just be confined to social media. We implore people to post them all over their community in bodega shops, in on bus stops, and on bulletin boards in your school. Just make like plaster them everywhere.
I love
Um,
that.
yeah, allow them to be seen. So that's
Print them out and put them, yeah, in public libraries.
yes, great idea.
Although, yeah,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
already
Anyway,
a target, so I feel
yeah.
like they'd be even more of a target. But that's okay. That's why they exist. They exist for public services, and
Right.
Yeah, anywhere your community goes. G stands for Get Out the Vote, or as we say, GOTV. So basically, voting in upcoming elections, even though we're in an off election year, there are important elections all across this country happening in 2025. We have some very important mayorals, we have some gubernatorials, very important elections that can mean the difference in immigration policy. So with that, we have a tool on our website where you can check your voter registration. You can register to vote. You can see any upcoming races in your local area, and you can also see the material policy stances of candidates in those races. So you can make an
oh wow.
informed decision when you go to the ballot box.
Wow, take it a step further because like I have seen vote tools before. It's like put in your address, see if you're registered. But like you guys are really taking it to the next level. I love that. It's great.
Yeah, it's a really cool project with this software company named Ballot Ready.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, like I think they're one of the first to really break it down with their stances on certain issue areas. I'm used to going to Ballotpedia or their
Yeah,
websites,
me
but
too.
yeah, this makes it much simpler. So I
Okay.
appreciate that.
Mhm.
I
Um,
do like that a lot because I have adult children, but they're still very young.
yeah,
And, they want everything simple. So if they have to dig for something, they're like, ah, never mind, I don't want to do it. I'm like, please just do it for the love of God. We need your help. So
yeah,
that I feel like is amazing.
click of a
Not
button.
it's not
Done.
just your young adult children too. It's like my parents. Like, come on.
Yeah,
You got to
no,
do civic duty.
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. H is holding institutions accountable. So right now we are seeing a variety of powerful figures across the country aiding and abetting the violent acts of ICE and the Trump administration. Whether that be, universities refusing to protect their students and handing over their names of their undocumented students, or private companies like Avello Airlines that are profiting off these deportation efforts. So we intend for that to kind of be an evolving prong of fight with different calls to action launching throughout the entirety of the campaign. But right now, the prong is centered upon Avelo Airlines, which is a regional airliner in the United States, and it seems that they're going through some tough times right now.
Oh my.
So in order to generate some profit, they have signed a contract with the Trump administration to conduct
Ugh.
deportation flights out of Arizona. A private company engaging in state violence is always just
Mm-mm.
wonderful to see. And I have to be really careful with my language here.
I
Um,
gotcha.
yeah. But we developed a tool that we oftentimes specialize in to help Avelo out in a certain regard. Wink, wink.
How
Um,
kind of you.
yeah. So Avelo is actively hiring new staff in order for this entire operation to occur. They need new flight attendants.
Okay.
They need a quote unquote manager of special government operations.
Oh, I can do that.
Yeah, we can all infer what that manager will be overseeing.
Okay.
And we saw we saw these job listings, and like I said, we decided to help Avello out by coding a tool that automatically sends job applications on a continuous loop
I
to
love
these
it.
different listings.
So
After
helpful. I love it.
after only a few days of use, and quite a few applications being sent. Their first application was taken down for flight attendants, which is
Uh,
great to hear.
means you did your job.
I know we were such a wonderful help, and our work isn't done here.
Okay,
Um,
good.
so we decided to go ahead and also code a tool for this manager application after the flight attendant application was taken down. And I just got word this morning that that was taken down. So
Nice.
Oh, look at you
yeah,
helping Novello. That's
yes.
great.
I'm sure they really appreciate us, and I joked at my company meeting, but if they need a PR specialist, because I really think they are in this moment, they should let us know because I think we can help out there.
They can,
Uh,
yeah, they can shift.
yes, yes.
That's
And then
eight.
yeah, the last component is T, which stands for tap into movements. So, like I said, this fight for immigrant justice has been going on for a very long time, and there are many different organizations that have been invested in this fight and pioneering time-tested tactics for a long time in this country with
Mhm.
many wins and successes. So we wanted to really make sure that we were honoring their work and also engaging with them and pushing our viewership into their own individual calls to action and movements. So we have listed there different ways that our followers can really materially take action outside of fight, oftentimes on the ground, with groups such as United We Dream, again, the ILRC, the Immigrant Legal Resource Center, Freedom for Immigrants, national organizations that really are making an impact.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, I have to admit, embarrassingly, like I don't the last three that you just mentioned, like I'd never heard of.
Yeah.
Because I'm privileged and I don't need to know of those things. But like I want to know what the who those organizations are so that I could help in any way, with this fight for their rights. So
Yeah, absolutely. And if you log onto the website, gz4c.org/fight, you absolutely can learn more about these respective organizations and support them in every endeavor that they are engaging in at the moment. So, yeah.
and we will put all of that information in our show notes. It's gz4c.com
Or,
org slash
yes.
fight org.
Fight.
It's a good one if it's an org.
So
Yeah.
true. Yes.
Well, seriously, going back to the fact that this is a nonprofit, I know grown men who can't get their shit together to make a nonprofit. Like, and not that you're not a grown man, but I mean, just like
No.
it is hard to become a nonprofit. Like, I can think of three situations where like, boomer adults have failed at becoming a nonprofit organization, but like, man, you guys, you know what you're doing, you're dedicated, and you're doing a great job.
Thank you. It
Mhm.
definitely is difficult, especially to figure out as young people who are oftentimes just like freshmen in college, you know. There are a lot of barriers to starting a nonprofit, whether it be like IRS determination paperwork
Yeah.
or acquiring lawyers or acquiring, you know, the funding necessary to pay staff. It's
Mhm.
a lot of terrain to cover and figure out, but I'm so grateful that, you know, I started in this space at a very early age and I feel like I'm acquiring a lot of great skills in this role that I can use later on down the line. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
When you become president of the United States.
How about that?
Oh, come on. You can do it.
I can see it, definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Jennifer, what were you doing freshman year of college?
I can't say. Wasn't anything good.
Definitely nowhere near what you guys are doing, but
Wasting time.
right?
I'll leave it at that.
Figuring it out.
Yeah,
Figure
it's
it
all about balance, you know,
out.
having fun. Yeah, alongside fighting the good fight. So yeah.
And I love following your personal social media too, because I'm like, oh, good, Jack is out, like taking a moment in nature or like
Yeah.
traveling. Like, you recently went to Germany, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I did. Yeah, that's something that I've definitely learned over the last year or so is like taking time for myself to really de-stress.
Mhm.
Because when your job is politics, it oftentimes can be super overwhelming. And I feel like I never like my work brain and my personal Jack brain are kind of like one and the same. So it's definitely hard to like set up that barrier and kind of separate the two.
Right.
So definitely have been prioritizing my mental health, especially in this moment when, you know, we have this insane administration going for lots of walks. I really appreciate my job because I get the opportunity to travel a lot. So whenever I'm in a new city, going to their you know, nearest nature. I love San Francisco. I love Golden Gate Park and all of the beautiful um different shorelines near there.
It is.
It is. Recently, I took a personal trip to Germany. That was exciting. Used a bit of my elementary German course that I
Nice.
took in my freshman year of college,
Good
and
for
went to
you.
Berlin, and went to Dresden, and it was super interesting. You know, I'm I'm big into history, and although it's horrific history, you
Right.
know, it's really important to learn.
Mhm.
So yeah.
And you saw with the book, I saw you posted a picture of the books, the book monument or whatever.
Yes, yeah. They have this big installation in the middle of central Berlin, right at the site of Humboldt University, actually, which is a really important university in Germany.
Mhm.
And it's at the center of a square where Nazi book burning happened back in you know, the mid to late 30s,
Mhm.
where books were burned of Jewish and Marxist and pacifist authors. And they have this glass installation that's oftentimes like surrounded by flowers and candles as a memorial.
Right.
And you look down and it's just a library, like a basement of a library with empty bookshelves. They're just completely barren.
Wow.
And it's really powerful for sure.
Very
And I
powerful. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's we're actually after we're done interviewing you, we are going to talk about the graphic novel adaptation of Anne Frank's
Oh,
Dream.
awesome. Yeah.
Because that's what we do on this podcast. We talk about books that have been banned or censored, and we relate it back to things that are going on today, and the importance of reading books like this instead of censoring them. So,
Absolutely.
yep.
When
Agree.
you were in Germany, did you get the vibe that they really learned from their mistakes versus I feel like here we don't learn. We just keep continuing repeating mistakes after mistakes.
Yeah, I definitely got that vibe. You know, I've been to different European countries. My family's from Hungary, and Hungary has a very tormented past, for sure. And let's just say that their government has not always been on the right side of history, even today, with Viktor Orban. And it's definitely not as much of like a centralized theme, and like the inherent guilt isn't there as when you're in Germany. Like in Berlin, I almost every street I saw, like they incorporated the atrocities of World War II. There were memorials everywhere. I mean, the Holocaust Memorial in central Berlin takes up multiple city blocks. It definitely is present there, and I really did appreciate that.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of the importance of having a leader that
Yeah.
aligns themselves with those beliefs. But Germany, I feel like, is a country that a lot of countries can look up to in terms of, is retribution the right word? There's a word for it. What's it called?
Reparations.
Reparation. Thank you.
Yeah.
Half of this podcast is me and Jennifer being like, is it this word?
Right.
Which word is it? So
How do you pronounce
reparation.
that?
The older you get, the harder it is to like recall those words. So we started a podcast because it just makes sense, right?
Good exercise.
Yeah, it's going to keep us sharp as we age.
Not working yet, but we're gonna keep trying.
But yeah, this was such a good conversation, Jack. I would love to have you back on in the future so we can continue talking about, Genz4Change's efforts. And I'm going to go on, make sure I follow all the social accounts, and I'm going to apply for a job at Velo.
I'm sure they will be very appreciative. And yeah, I'd love to be back. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you for spending some time with us. We appreciate you so much. This episode has been engineered and mixed by your hosts, Jennifer and Courtney.
You can listen to the Milf for Books podcast on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, or literally any podcast app you want.
If you want to watch the podcast, check out our Milf for Books YouTube page. That's MILF, 4, Books. And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Follow the show on Instagram, Threads, Facebook, and Blue Sky at MILF for Books. Again, that's MILF, 4, Books. But follow us on TikTok at Moms Into Literary Freedom.
Thanks for listening.